Welcome to Spanglish Friends, the podcast for true beginner Spanish learners.
Hola amigos, I'm Val, your co-host and experienced Spanish teacher from Venezuela.
And I'm Em, your Australian co-host who's been learning Spanish for 10 years.
Our goal is simple, to get you confident listening and speaking in beginner Spanish with content you'll actually use in real-life conversations.
Join the Spanish Friends community by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts and following us on social media at Spanglish_Friends. Let's get started.
Comencemos. Hola Spanglish amigos. Hello, and welcome to episode 3. Episodio 3.
Hola everyone! We are so very excited today to be diving into our first content episode.
Yes, it's so exciting. Estoy tan emocionada. I'm so excited.
Yes, and if you're new to Spanglish Friends, welcome. In our first episode, we spoke about how Spanglish Friends is different to other beginners Spanish podcasts. We spoke about the format of our show and helps you to find out if we're the right podcast for you. In our second episode, we broke down some common language learning myths, and we also shared our recommended learning tools for you to be able to learn Spanish, like apps and podcasts, etc. So if you haven't tuned into those episodes, head back to them. Otherwise, if you're ready to dive right into learning, you're at the right episode.
We want to call out as well that for our true beginner type episodes, we are going to be primarily speaking in English and easing you into Spanish gradually. We will have a dedicated section of the podcast where we speak in Spanish, and don't worry, we will get you all prepared by the time we start speaking.
Absolutely. We'll give you plenty of warning before we get there as well. Each week, Val and I will be building on the concept you've learnt in the previous podcast as well. So you start to feel this sense of progression over time. Tell us, Profe Val, what are we going to be diving into today's episode?
Well, as a starter, let's start there. The Spanish word you just used, profe, is the shortening of the word profesora, which means teacher. You can use profesor for a male teacher and profesora for a female teacher. But we will get into genders and all about how to use them in one of our upcoming podcasts.
That's a good call out, Val. You'll probably hear me referring to Val as profe a lot of times throughout our podcast, plus a whole lot of Spanglish, Spanish and English combination.
That's why we called the podcast a Spanglish Friend after all. But today's topic is all about presentarse en español, introducing yourself in Spanish.
Yes, it's good to have a few words and sentences up your sleeve that you can use in a first introductory conversation with someone. So tell us, Val, how do we introduce ourselves in Spanish?
So when you meet someone, the first thing you might say is hello, right? That is hola in Spanish.
Yes, hola, Val. Fantastic. We've got that locked down. Nice and simple to start with, and probably something you might be familiar with. Now, you might also hear muy buenas as well, which is commonly used in Spain as a hello type greeting as well. So you can say hola or muy buenas.
Second thing someone is most likely going to ask when meeting you for the first time is, what's your name, right? We have two ways to ask this. ¿Cuál es tu nombre? Or ¿Cómo te llamas?
This is how you would answer the question. Me llamo means my name is. Me llamo. And if I want to respond to that question, ¿Cuál es tu nombre? I need to answer, mi nombre es Emily. Emmy. My name is Emily. Now, if I want to ask the question back, I would say, ¿Y tú, Val? And you? ¿Cómo te llamas? Or ¿Cuál es tu nombre? The ¿y tú that I just added means and you to continue the flow of the conversation.
My reply would again be, mi nombre es Valentina, or yo me llamo Val.
Perfect. Now, a common question, especially when I was traveling around South America, I got this a lot, is where are you from? Now, if I want to ask Val, where are you from? I would most commonly use this sentence. ¿De dónde eres? De means from, ¿dónde means where, and eres means are you, conjugated. ¿De dónde eres?
¿De dónde eres? So in English, it's from where you are. The structure in Spanish is often a bit confusing to start with in the beginning, but we will certainly be going over this in a future episode. These are just to get you actually talking. So I answer to ¿De dónde eres? With the reply, Yo soy de Venezuela, which translates to I am from Venezuela. ¿Y tú, Emmy? And you, Emmy? ¿De dónde eres?
I would reply, Yo soy de Australia, which means I am yo soy de from and Australia. Awesome. Now, the next step in our interaction, this might not be the exact order the conversation happens, but most likely to come up, you might want to ask the person's age, how old they are. Normally in English, we say, how old are you? In Spanish, they don't say the word to be. They say to have years, to wear years in Spanish. So to do this, they use the verb tener. So I would reply to the question, how old are you? I would say, tengo 27 años. Tengo literally means I have, and 27 means 27 years old. But in English, this literally translates to I am 27 years old.
And the question you're likely to be asked is ¿Cuántos años tienes? ¿Cuántos años tienes? Which is literally how many years do you have? Yes, we counted.
You do.
But in English, it means how old are you? You might also get asked ¿Qué edad tienes? Which also translates to how old are you?
That's right. Two ways of saying the same thing. And don't worry, we will go through how to say numbers in a future episode. This is so you get an understanding of some of the common questions you might get. You also might want to find out someone's occupation, what they do for work, their profession, their job, if they're studying or if they're working in a first interaction.
Yes, if you want to ask about the person's occupation, there are a few different ways to ask it. The most common are ¿A qué te dedicas? ¿A qué te dedicas? Which literally translate to what do you dedicate yourself to? We know in English this means what do you do for a living? What do you do for work? Another way of saying it is ¿Cuál es tu profesión? ¿Cuál es tu profesión? Which means what is your profession?
And so for this question, I would answer yo soy. We're using that same conjugation from before, which means I am. Yo soy una asesora de recursos humanos. I am a HR advisor outside of this podcast. So breaking it down, I've used yo soy and I've added my specific job title. Now, you can certainly use Google Translate, any translator, to figure out all the ways to say your different professions. Or you might also be a student. If you're a student, you can say yo soy un estudiante.
That's perfect, Emmy. Finally, at some point, you're likely going to want to ask the other person, how are you, right? We would say, ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? Which means, how are you?
Yeah, ¿cómo estás? And we just want to preface here, you might also hear a second version of this, which is ¿Cómo está usted? Which, hold your breath, also means how are you? So Val, why is this? Why are there two forms of saying how are you?
So why do we have the way of saying it? Well, usted is our formal you. So we use it when we want to convey respect, right? It's most common in a professional work environment or when speaking to older members of the community, for example, your grandparents.
Yes, and I have an example of this. So when I visited South America last year, one of the older ladies from my family that I met, I would address as usted. So I would say, Señora, ¿cómo está usted? So how are you? Instead of saying ¿Cómo estás tú? I said ¿Cómo está usted? And that is
That's a
to
good
convey
example.
that message of respect. People will use tú, right? If you're speaking between friends and family, people you're well acquainted with, you can use that tú form.
So how do you reply to being asked, how are you? Either ¿Cómo estás? Or ¿Cómo está usted?
Yes. Well, You can tell them how you are. You can say, estoy muy bien, gracias, which means I'm really good, thanks. Estoy muy bien. Or you can say, bien, gracias, which is just, I'm good. Or if you're feeling so, like, I'm okay, you can say más o menos. Or if you're feeling particularly bad, you can say estoy mal. But I'm warning you, if you're saying estoy mal, the Spanish people are going to ask you, why are you feeling so bad? And you've got to be prepared to explain it in Spanish. So I would say bien, gracias is a great starting response.
There are many different ways in Spanish. If you get more confident, you probably want to sound less formal and you be more friendly when asking, how are you? Right? In Spanish, there are different ways to ask this. You could say, ¿qué tal? ¿Qué tal? Which is, what's up? Or you could say, ¿todo bien? ¿Todo bien? All good? Or ¿qué tal te va? ¿Qué tal te va? How is it going?
And you can pick and choose which of those phrases suits you to ask someone how they are. Okay, amazing, Val. Amazing, profe. We've smashed through a lot here. You might be thinking, yes, I've got this, or oh my gosh, my brain is fried right now. I don't remember anything. I don't even know how to say my name, but don't worry, friends.
Yes, don't worry and don't panic, please. You can listen as many times as you want to this episode. So if you need to go back and listen again, you can do this.
Absolutely. And you can slow down the pace of our conversations if need be, if that helps you too. But Spanglish friends, this is the moment you've been waiting for. In our podcast, we promise to have conversations in absolute beginners, super slow Spanish. So we're going to do that. We're going to put everything together that we've just learnt to show you what an actual beginner's conversation with a native like Val would look like using all the concept we've learnt to date. So, are you ready, Profe Val?
Sí, 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 yes. Comencemos. Hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo te llamas?
Hola, ¿qué tal? Me llamo Emi. Estoy muy bien. ¿Y tú? ¿Cuál es tu nombre?
Mi nombre es Val. ¿De dónde eres?
Soy de Australia. ¿Y tú?
Yo soy de Venezuela. ¿Cuántos años tienes, Emi?
Yo tengo 27 años. ¿Y a qué te dedicas, Val? ¿Cuál es tu profesión?
Yo soy profesora de español.
Un placer conocerte, Val.
Igualmente, Emi.
Wowee! Our first Spanish conversation. How did you go, friends? Did you pick up a word or two that we mentioned earlier? If so, that's great. You're already starting to build your Spanish listening skills.
Yes, if you just caught a few, you're already progressing, and that's amazing. Well done.
I want to call out at the end of that conversation too, we snuck in a little un placer conocerte, which means it's a pleasure to meet you, which is a great way to finish an introductory conversation. And I replied to Val saying igualmente, which literally means likewise in English.
It's important to mention this is obviously not the pace of a native conversation, but we want to slowly introduce you to how conversations actually may sound. We know today has been a lot. You can always go back and recap certain sections of the podcast and review alongside the transcript, or you can slow down the speed of the audio if needed. Remember always to go in your own pace of learning.
Absolutely. So that's how to have an introductory conversation in Spanish. We promised you, friends, at the end of our episode, we're going to leave you with just 3 things to remember. There's a lot of content here. Val, what are the 3 things that our Spanglish friends should remember from today's podcast?
There are 3 key phrases to remember from today. Number 1, let's learn ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? Remember, this is the most common way of asking someone, how are you? ¿Cómo estás? Number 2 is ¿De dónde eres? Remember, this is the most common way of asking someone, where are you from? ¿De dónde eres? Number 3, and finally, ¿cuál es tu profesión? Remember, this is the way to ask someone, what is your job or your profession? ¿Cuál es tu profesión?
Thank you, Val. So there are your 3 things to remember. And now we have our reto of the week. Reto is a Spanish word that means challenge. And we have a challenge for you this week, Spanglish friends. And it is, ¿Cómo te llamas? What's your name? ¿Cuántos años tienes? How old are you? ¿De dónde eres? Where are you from? Use the structure we've taught you today to introduce yourself to your other Spanglish friends in the comments section of our podcast.
That's all for today, amigos. We're looking forward to reading your comments.
Absolutely. We are so super proud of you all for taking this step in your learning journey. We'll catch you all next episode, episodio 4. We will be jumping into the Spanish alphabet and how do you actually sound out words in Spanish?
Hasta la próxima, amigas. Until next time, friends.
Ciao amigos, ciao ciao.
Thank you for listening to Spanglish Friends. We are both so proud of the time you're investing to level up your Spanish listening and speaking skills.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, follow us and give the show a rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Or even better, tell a friend about the show. It's how we can help even more people on their Spanish learning journeys and continue to grow our awesome, supportive community.
Don't forget to check out our socials, including Instagram and TikTok at Spanglish_friends for even more beginner Spanish fun.
Congratulations on taking another step today towards your Spanish learning goals. Ciao, Spanglish amigos. Until next time.
Hasta la próxima, amigos.